It's often said that suffering can strengthen our connection to spirit. And I spend a lot of time with mediums of all levels, with new psychic mediums who are just developing their skills and with experienced psychic mediums. And one of the questions is always, how does suffering strengthen the connection to spirit or to God? How does it open us to receiving messages and being able to see, hear, feel, know, taste, smell? How does it expand our abilities to connect? And as someone who has personal experience, I would like to share my thoughts on that. I've always been someone who was deeply connected to the unknown, the unseen, very curious about it ever since young childhood, ever since I was a toddler, really, and continued that interest all through my life. But then at one point, about 15 years ago, my entire life shifted and all kinds of aspects of my life were taken from me. People I loved, environments I had grown accustomed to, all taken within the course of a year. And I grieved deeply for those losses. And then when I started to emerge from that grief, I learned that meditation was helpful in being present with it and in processing it. And after a particularly powerful meditation session one day, suddenly all of my abilities began to make themselves known to me in incredible ways. I became aware that I had very strong clairaudience, meaning I could hear names, words, phrases. I had strong third eye vision, so that while I heard things, I would often see pictures and sometimes moving pictures in my mind. And I had always had claircognizance. But all of these abilities started to really make themselves known, almost like a racehorse speeding out of the gate after this experience with great grief. And I never had that kind of grief until that point. My life was relatively peaceful. I had an easy childhood for the most part. And so when this happened, when I was an adult, it was the first time I ever had to face and process great loss. And I think what happens is that when we are suffering so deeply, we need help and we ask for it. We open ourselves to the universe. We say, please help me. If we're lucky, we say, please help me, please help me, please give me the strength to be present and to move through this. Please help me to get to the other side. And when we do that, we make space for something new to step forward. And so when we make that space, once we have processed all of the suffering and the pain, we are left with empty space that still remains to be filled. And that space is filled with spirit if we choose to allow it to come forward. And the way to allow it is to practice and go to mediumship circles and to meditate and to surround ourselves with people who are practicing the same thing. That's the best way to develop. But that initial phase of great loss and suffering opens us to the possibilities around us. And it's not just great loss that does that. It happens with smaller versions of loss as well. It can happen when there is an accident or some kind of physical suffering. Sometimes people who experience childbirth have an expansion of their abilities and their connection to spirit after. So it's not just emotional pain and suffering, and it's not just very large losses like deaths, but any level of grief or suffering that brings us to our knees and shows us that we need help, not just from those around us, not just from our material compatriots, but also from God, from spirit, when we have the grace to say, help arrives. It helps us process, it helps us move through, and it remains if we allow it. And it shows us what we're truly capable of, which is great connection to the consciousness around us. We all have that ability. And that's how suffering plays a role in the connection to spirit and in developing our mediumship and intuitive gifts. If you enjoy my messages, I post every day, so please come back tomorrow and please like and subscribe. It helps me very much. Thank you.